next. Behind this reunion selfie lies an untold story of time, fame, loss, and the lasting legacy of Smallville. There are some stories about heroes. And then there are stories about the years before a hero becomes himself. Those stories feel different. Softer. Closer. More human. Because they are not really about power yet. They are about waiting for power. Fearing it. Hiding it. Misunderstanding it. And growing up under the pressure of a destiny that no teenager should ever have to carry. That is what Smallville was. Not just a Superman prequel. Not just a teen drama with meteor showers, barns, football fields, and secrets. It was a story about becoming. About the long, lonely distance between being a boy and becoming a symbol. And maybe that is why this reunion image hits so hard. Tom Welling standing beside the young Clark Kent of 2001. Not yet Superman. Not yet the man the world knows. Just a farm boy with too much strength, too many questions, and a face that still believed life might stay simple. Kristen Kruk facing the Lana Lang she once played. The first love. The impossible love. The girl who carried beauty, grief, longing, and distance all at once. Michael Rosenbaum standing beside the younger Lex Luthor. Before the bald head became a legend. Before friendship fully hardened into fate. Erica Durance looking back at Lois Lane. Before she became certainty. Before the banter turned into devotion. Before she became the person who could stand beside Clark. Not because she needed saving, but because she could see him clearly. Annette O'Toole and John Schneider. Meeting Martha and Jonathan Kent again. The parents who made morality feel stronger than superpowers.
John Glover fascine Lionel Luthor.
One of television's most poisonous fathers. And somewhere in the edge of memory, Christopher Reeve. Julian Sands. The ghosts already inside the myth. That is why Smallville is not just nostalgic. It is emotional in a deeper way. Because when we imagine these actors beside their younger selves, we are not only imagining a cast reunion. We are imagining youth standing next to destiny. We are imagining innocence beside consequence. We are imagining the years before a legend, meeting the years after it. When Smallville premiered in 2001, it arrived at exactly the right moment. Television was changing. Superhero storytelling on screen had not yet become the giant machine it would later become. And here came a series willing to slow everything down. No cape. No flights for most of the journey. No full Superman yet. Just Clark Kent in Kansas. High school hallways. A red jacket. A yellow crest not yet formalized. A barn loft. A meteor shower that changed everything. That choice was brilliant. Because Smallville understood something many later superhero stories would forget. Before a hero saves the world, he has to survive adolescence. He has to survive loneliness, shame, secrecy, the pain of being different, the fear of hurting people he loves, the temptation to lie for protection, and the slow grief of discovering that growing into who you are meant to be may cost you the life you first wanted. That is why the show lasted. Its pilot broke the WB's ratings record for a new series, drawing roughly 8.4 million viewers. Across 10 seasons, the show built a long afterlife, and by the end of its run it had surpassed Stargate SG-1 as the longest-running North American sci-fi television series by episode count. It also won multiple Emmys for outstanding sound editing, including for the pilot, Arrival, and Bizarro. Those are the achievements. Those are the official markers. But like most beloved long-running shows, That is not why Smallville lives. It lives because it gave people more than plot. It gave them emotion. The ache of first love. The ache of secrets. The ache of trying to be good, while feeling fundamentally unlike everyone around you. It gave them meaning. Questions about identity, fate, morality, friendship, family, and sacrifice. It gave them pull. That irresistible weekly feeling that maybe this episode would be the one, where Clark finally steps closer to who he is meant to become. It gave them beauty. Not polished beauty alone, but Americana beauty, cornfields, sunlit barns, football jackets, autumn roads, night skies, and the strange holiness of small-town myth. It gave them connection, not only to Superman mythology, but to youth itself, to the part of life where everything feels unfinished. And finally, it gave them afterglow. Because Smallville is one of those series. People do not just remember by storyline. They remember it by feeling. The opening song. The barn. The blue shirt under the red jacket. The torch of the Kent farm. The Luthor mansion. The friendship that was already a tragedy, even when it still looked like hope. That is one of the great miracles of the show. Clark and Lex. Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum built one of the most important emotional relationships in superhero television. And it worked because Smallville refused to rush the fall. Lex was not born as a monster in this version. He was lonely, curious, hungry for goodness, drawn to Clark for reasons that felt almost spiritual. And Clark, in return, wanted to believe in him. That is what makes their story so painful. Because Smallville is not merely the story of Superman rising. It is also the story of a friendship collapsing under secrecy, ambition, mistrust, and fate. That is why Rosenbaum's Lex still feels definitive to so many viewers. He was not just evil. He was wounded, brilliant, funny, needful, capable of tenderness, capable of obsession, always one step away from becoming what everyone feared he might become. And that complexity turned Lex into more than a villain. It turned him into a loss. Michael Rosenbaum remains active as an actor and podcaster, and he and Tom Welling have kept the Smallville bond alive publicly through their Talkville podcast and repeated efforts to develop an animated continuation of the series. That matters. Because when you imagine older Michael standing beside younger Lex, you are not seeing a role that vanished into the past. You are seeing a character who keeps following him, and a performance that still has a living conversation with its audience. Tom Welling carries a different emotional weight, because Clark in Smallville is not yet the finished icon. He is uncertainty, and that is what makes him so watchable. He is strong, but not settled. Good, but not yet wise. Loved, but not yet able to love cleanly. He keeps saving people before fully understanding himself. He keeps reaching for an ordinary life, while destiny keeps pulling him towards something larger. That is what gives the show its heart. Clark is not compelling because he is unbeatable. He is compelling because he is trying to become moral enough to deserve his own power. Tom Welling remains publicly tied to the legacy of the show, still appearing with castmates, still discussing the role, and still linked to possible future revivals. Recent coverage also notes he has new work like Chasing Summer, while continuing to engage with fans around Smallville. So when you picture present-day Tom beside 2001 Tom, it does not feel like a simple before and after photo. It feels like a man standing beside the version of himself, who had not yet become a symbol for an entire generation of viewers. Then there is Lana Lang. Kristen Kruk gave the show its first great ache, because Lana was never just the pretty girl next door. She was mourning, distance, Idealization. Mystery. The embodiment of a life Clark wanted, but could never fully keep. That is what first love often becomes in stories like this. Not a destination, a season, a longing, a beautiful thing that teaches you what you cannot hold forever. That is why Lana remains so central to the emotional memory of Smallville. She represents the years before destiny becomes adult truth. The years when love still feels like it might save you from becoming something bigger than yourself. Kristen Kruk remains active, with recent starring work including Murder in a Small Town, which makes her reunion image feel less like fading memory and more like maturity meeting youth. Then, eventually, comes Lois. And with Lois, the energy changes. Because Erica Durance did not play Lois Lane like a dream. She played her like momentum. Lois is with friction, speed, courage. The person who can stand inside Clark's life without worshipping him. That is important. Lana is part of Clark's emotional youth. Lois is part of his future. She belongs not to the fantasy of remaining a boy, but to the truth of becoming a man. That is why many viewers feel the show matures when Lois enters more fully. The romance becomes less idealized, more alive, more balanced, more adult. Erica Durance remains active too, with recent casting news including Tracker Season 3, and she has also spoken positively about the possibility of returning to the Smallville world in an animated continuation. And that makes her then and now image especially satisfying. Because Lois was always the future. So seeing older Erica beside younger Lois feels almost like the show fulfilling its own promise. But perhaps the deepest moral force in Smallville was never the romance. It was the Kents. Annette O'Toole and John Schneider gave the show something many superhero adaptations struggle to protect. Parents who matter. Martha and Jonathan Kent are not just background. They are conscience. They are the reason power in this story is always tethered to ethics. They are the reason Clark's goodness feels earned, not inherited automatically. Jonathan especially brings one of the series' central truths into focus. Love is not only warmth. Sometimes it is boundary, responsibility, disappointment, the courage to demand more from someone, because you know what they could become. Annette O'Toole remains active, notably in Virgin River, while John Schneider also continues working as an actor in recent film and TV projects. So when you imagine the older Martha and Jonathan beside their younger selves, the feeling is not just nostalgia. It is gratitude. Gratitude for the adults in a story about youth, who made the whole moral universe believable. And then there is Lionel Luthor. John Glover played him with such intelligence that he became more than a corporate villain or manipulative father. He became corruption in elegant form. Lionel is polished evil.
Civilise de menace.
A man who turns love into control, and fatherhood into strategy. Without Lionel, Lex's tragedy would be weaker, because Smallville understands that villains are not shaped in a vacuum. They are often formed in houses, in childhood, in the kind of attention that damages more than it protects. That is one reason the show still resonates. It makes destiny feel personal. Not abstract myth. Not just comic book inevitability. Family. Friendship. Upbringing. Choice. That is where the true drama is. And because Smallville lived so long, it also became a gathering point for Superman legacy itself. Christopher Reeve, the Superman most sacred to many older viewers, guest starred on the show and openly approved of it before his death in 2004. That blessing mattered symbolically. It gave the series a kind of passing of the torch. Years later, that fact feels even more emotional. Because now when we imagine the many eras of Superman history touching each other inside Smallville, we are not just imagining fan service. We are imagining inheritance. One version of the myth, recognizing another. And there is grief in Smallville's extended memory too. Julian Sands, who voiced Jor-El across the series, died in 2023. Christopher Reeve died in 2004. So even a show built around youth and future now carries the ache of absence. That changes the emotional color of any reunion image. Because time no longer feels theoretical. It becomes visible. There is another harder part to the show's legacy as well. Allison Mack, once a prominent part of the cast, later became publicly known for her criminal involvement in the Nexium case. The Associated Press reported her release from prison in 2023 after she had pleaded guilty and been sentenced in 2021. That means Smallville carries not only nostalgia and triumph, but complication. And that is worth acknowledging honestly. Because long-running shows do not stay frozen in their original innocence. Their legacy continues to change, as the people inside them change. Still, the larger story of Smallville remains powerful. Who is still active? A striking number of the cast most associated with the series are still working or publicly connected to its legacy. Tom Welling, Michael Rosenbaum, Kristen Kruk, Erica Durance, Annette O'Toole, John Schneider, and others remain visible in television, film, conventions, podcasts, and new projects. That means the imagined then and now frame is not mainly a memorial. It is a conversation. A conversation between the people they were, and the people they became. And that may be exactly why Smallville still matters. Because more than many superhero shows, it understands the emotional pain of becoming. It understands that identity is not revealed all at once. It is tested, delayed, resisted, hidden, mourned. It understands that youth is not simply a prelude to greatness. Sometimes youth is the most painful part of greatness. Now comes the larger question. Has any superhero television series surpassed Smallville? In scale, budget, and franchise machinery, yes. Many came later with bigger universes, flashier effects, and more aggressive crossovers. But in one very specific thing, Smallville is still hard to replace. The emotional architecture of becoming Superman. Not Superman already formed. Not Superman already iconic. Superman as a decade-long human struggle. That is rare. And it is why the show's cultural place remains so secure. It helped prove that comic book television could be serialized, character-driven, romantic, mythic, and intimate all at once. It also expanded beyond the finale through Smallville Season 11 comics, keeping its version of Clark alive after 2011. So has another show surpassed it in cultural legacy? Some have been louder. Some have been bigger. Some have been more critically fashionable in their moment. But Smallville still occupies a singular place. Because for a generation, it was not just a Superman show. It was adolescence with destiny attached. That is why the selfie with time idea works so beautifully here. If this cast could truly gather in one frame. If Clark, Lana, Lex, Lois, Martha, Jonathan, and Lionel could all stand beside the actors who played them. It would not simply be a reunion photo. It would be a portrait of youth meeting fate. Of first love meeting adult memory. Of friendship meeting tragedy. Of parents meeting the legacy they helped raise. Of a boy who once only wanted normality. Standing beside the man who eventually had to become myth. And maybe that is the deepest value at the center of Smallville. Not that greatness is easy. Not that destiny is glamorous. Not even that heroes are born. But that becoming who you are meant to be often hurts. It costs time. It costs innocence. It costs relationships. It costs the fantasy of an ordinary life. And yet, if the heart is guided well enough, if the love around you is strong enough, if your moral center survives the weight of power, then what you become might still be good. That is why people return to Smallville. Not only for the mythology, not only for the ships, not only for the soundtrack, the meteor freaks, the farm, the jackets, the Luthor mind games, or the slow path to the suit. They return because the show remembers what so many origin stories forget. Before a hero becomes a symbol, he is a young person, trying not to lose himself, and that struggle never gets old. So if one day the cast really stood shoulder to shoulder, with the younger selves the camera preserved between 2001 and 2011, the image would say more than nostalgia ever could. It would say, here is what time does to us. Here is what memory preserves. Here is what destiny changes. And here is what still remains. The hope remains. The ache remains. The friendship remains. The first love remains. The longing remains. And most of all, the becoming remains. What do you think is the true heart of Smallville? Clark and Lex, Clark and Lana, Clark and Lois, or the moral guidance of the Kent family? Which Smallville character feels the most emotional to you when you imagine their younger and older versions standing side by side? Do you think any superhero series has truly surpassed Smallville in telling the long human story of becoming a hero?